Alan Haran Haller, memory of his brother Yaakov ben Avraham. Week of learning, Judy Iger, in memory of her father Elio ben Yosef Mordechai. Sharon and Michael Glass, in memory of her father Shlomo ben Yosef Chaim. Robin and Rabbi Tzvi, Karpel, in memory of her father Aryeh Leib ben Shloimeh. Isaac and Evelyn Blacher, in memory of his sister Chaya Rachel Bas Iser, and the same Blachers in memory of her father, Harav Yishayo Yitzchak ben Harav Yisrael Yechiel Halevi. Marty and Judy Engel, in memory of his father, Yaakov Alter ben Abraham Dave. Elliot and Anita Goodman, memory of his father, Yehuda ben Rav Elazar Levi. Jonas and Clara Wazer, in memory of his father, Elazar ben Tzvi Akoid. And today's the 18th, Marcia Solomon, in memory of her son, Harav Shmuel Lev ben Harav Avigdor Mordechai Halevi. Barbara Goldfarb, in memory of her husband, Abraham ben Aaron Elimelech. Okay. I'm assuming that everybody did their homework.
Yes.
So I'm going to just outside review quickly Lamed Beis. The Mishnah on Lamed Beis says basically if the husband sends a shliach to deliver a get to his frau and he changes his mind, so he can send another shliach to catch up with the first shliach, or he himself can catch up with the first shliach, with the only shliach in that case, and he can say the get's bottled, and it is okay. But if there's always a but, if the get gets to her, even if it's only 2 seconds. In other words, he's literally right behind the shliach. He's running. Shliach goes into her house. He's right behind him. He can practically reach out and grab, but she gets the get. Finished. They're divorced.
Can't retract.
Because done is done. Okay, then the Mishnah ends up that if he's in Pittsburgh and she's in Yerushalayim, and he sends a shliach to send her the get, originally he could go to a bezdin or create an arayatic bezdin in Pittsburgh and say to that bezdin, I'm canceling, and it would be canceled. Okay, so the problems could be that she gets it, but she doesn't know it's canceled. She's in Yerushalayim. And even though miraculously he was in Pittsburgh, they didn't have airplanes, they didn't have telephones, he couldn't text. So now she's got this get. That's a big problem. So Rabban Gamliel decides that you can't do that anymore. And he makes a takana. And the Gemara says, in order to make the world a better place, that you can't do that anymore. But the lashon in the Mishnah is strange. The lashon in the Mishnah is, it says, "Shelo yihiyu oisakei." People shouldn't do that. Now that's strange lashon. It doesn't say it's usher to do that. Says do yourself a favor, don't do that. So of course that's what we're going to discuss in the Gemara.
Does that only apply if she's in your?
If she, all right. So Rabbi Gamliel's takana effectively was she has to be present in the bezdin when he tries to cancel a get, or
being in Israel has nothing to do with it.
No. It's because we've been talking Medina Siyam. I wanted to make a big long distance. She could have been in Hong Kong. Okay, the point is it's going to take a while for the get to get there. So he knows for sure that the get isn't there yet because he only gave it to the shliach yesterday and the shliach got on a boat. So we know the get didn't get there. And then he goes to a local bezdin and cancels the get. Okay, we're going to discuss whether he really canceled the get or not, but okay. So that's the deal. All right. And then the Gemara discusses how many people have to be in the bezdin. Is it 2 or is it 3? And then the Gemara discusses what wording would be valid in terms of canceling and what wording would not be valid in terms of canceling. And then the Gemara discusses various, again, whether it's 2 or 3 people. And now we're up to 6 lines, because this is where we're going to pick up 6 lines from the bottom on Lamed Beis. Lamed Beis. Okay, B'Shaina, initially, the husband could make a local bezdin. Okay, Itmar mipnei kamahu mevatloi. How many people have to be present? In other words, how big is this bezdin when the husband cancels? This is before they change the rules. Okay. Reb Nachman Omer b'fnei beis. Reb Nachman says you only need 2. Okay. Reb Sheshes Omer b'fnei gimel. You need 3. Reb Sheshes Omer b'fnei gimel bezdin katani. He says because the Mishnah said a bezdin, and a normal bezdin is 3 or 23 or 71. So it has to sometimes 5 for being the Kaddish, the Chodesh, but a minimum of 3 and a bezdin, says Reb Sheshes. Reb Nachman, I'm b'fnei beis lebeitrei nami bezdin kari lahu, because occasionally even 2 people can be called a bezdin. Okay, so Amar Reb Nachman, how do I know that sometimes 2 can be called the bezdin? So there's a document, I don't know how much we all know, so there's a document called a prusbul. If at the end, except for Lubavitch, who say at the beginning of the Shemitah year, people owe you money, and the debt meets all the requirements of being canceled on a Shemitah year. It's not a debt that doesn't come due for 10 more years, et cetera, et cetera. Or it's not a debt where you agreed originally it wouldn't be canceled. It's just a normal debt. Bob owes me money. It's Shemitah year. I have to, if I want to collect that money after Shemitah year, I have to go to a bezdin and I have to write a document called a prusbul. Now, there are 2 potential texts for a prusbul. One text is, I am appearing before a bezdin and I am declaring to the judges that I'm transferring the debt to them. And it goes on, but the word judges can be used, in which case I now can collect the debt. Another acceptable text is I am appearing before Eidim and transferring my debt. And okay, so you could use the word Eidim or you could use the word judges. Okay, so Omer Reb Nachman Mina Minallah, how do I know this? The Tanan Mosrani Lifneichem, I am submitting to you, before you, and the text goes as follows: Pliny uploni hadayonit, Shabamakum Pliny. Bob and Shraga Feivel, the judges in Boca. So two judges are mentioned. Okay, so obviously, since only two judges are mentioned, you could maybe do two judges, right? That's Reb Nachman's perspective. Reb Sheshes atutana ki ruchla lehashiv v'lezil. Basically, what that means is when you buy something and the merchant gives you change, you buy something for 15 cents and he's got it, you give him a quarter. So he gives you a nickel and then he counts out 5 pennies. Okay. The Gemara is presuming that to be a demeaning or at least a very common activity. And would you have to do that when you're describing a Beis Din? Mishnah says before Harry and Charlie, it doesn't bother telling you that Sydney is also there. That's what he's basically saying, that the text, two people's names, is not definitive, that it could do just two people. So Amar Reb Nachman, Mina Aminallah. So Reb Nachman says again, I can do only two judges. Now this gets a little technical, so hold cup. The Tanan Hadayanim Chaismin Lamato. You have one option of the judges who heard him make this proclamation or read this document can be the people who sign at the bottom. Okay? O ha'edim. Or alternatively, just as good, you could have two edim sign at the bottom. My love, so isn't what's going on here? Dayanim daim edim. That we're making an equivalency between judges and witnesses. Okay. Ma edim shnayim, just as two witnesses is normal cut of witnesses. Af dayanim namishnayim, then we could in this instance have two witnesses. Now it's true that we're talking a prusbul, but now that we have a precedent, we can carry it over to the people who he declares that his get is nullified. But we're not finished yet. Rav Sheshes, my Amide Ariya. Are you proving anything with that? Isa. When you're talking about witnesses, obviously it's two or more. When you're talking about judges, it's three. There's no real equivalency here. So then the Gemara, now not this, the discussion is over. Now the Gemara is raising a point. Why does the Mishnah talking about prusbul go through an arichas? You could use judges, you could use witnesses, okay? If it simply said witnesses, then you'd know there are two, but the judges would probably be three. And you'd know if the witness can sign, there are documents that the judges sign. There are at least two people. They're going to be three people. So why do you have to even teach that? So the Gemara says, Hakamash Malon. Here's what we're trying to learn. The Loshana Kasav Beloshan Dayanim, V'chas Me'edim. It wouldn't matter if the text you bought from Bloomberg would be to use the word dayanim, and yet witnesses sign on it. And it wouldn't matter, v'lo shana kasav v'lashon edim v'chasmei dayanim. And it wouldn't matter if the text you had for your prusbul said, I'm declaring in front of witnesses, and yet the document is signed by the members of the Beis Din, the Dayanim. And that's why it used the Mishnah, goes into this arichas, judges or witnesses. So you could have four, the witnesses could be the witnesses and sign. The witnesses could be the witnesses and the judges could sign. The text could say judges and the judges could sign. Text could say judges and the witnesses could sign, and all those would be valid prusbul, and Bob, I want my money. Okay? So that resolves that part of it. Now we're going on and we're saying exactly what was Rabban Gamliel trying to accomplish by undoing this procedure with, as I pointed out, sort of strange.
Still leaves a sore point in my head, because we do know that based
Can
on
take an
learned
aspirin.
Sanhedrin, et cetera, that judges have to be at least 3. So
Well, you just learned that according to Reb Nachman, judges, you can't come here and tell us what you think you know. You have to stick to what the Gemara says. There was a machlokes between Reb Nachman and Reb Sheshes for the purpose of dissolving or being mavatal a get. You need 2 or 3. That's all. That's what the Gemara just taught you. So what you have or think you know, throw that away and just learn the daf. Okay? Mipnei tikkun ha'olam. Rabbi Gamliel canceled that procedure of sneakily doing a get, dissolving a get while it's on its way to your wife and it reaches her. Okay? Now, she may not know that you canceled it. Okay? She got the get. She thinks it's a valid get. She may remarry. That's one possibility, okay? My mitnei tikkun ha'olam, what does it mean that Rabban Gamliel wanted to make things better for the world? What are we talking about? Reb Yochanan Aimer mitnei tekanas mamzerim. He's worried that the wife will never hear that this get was no good because it was done in Pittsburgh and she's in Jerusalem, and she will get married and she'll have babies and those little kids will be mamzerim. So by saying husbands can't secretly mevatel a get, you preclude that, or at least you minimize that possibility. That's why you wanted to make this gazette, this new takana. Reish Lakish Omer mipnei tekanas agunos. He said we don't want to make more. It's a problem for society when a woman's an aguna. An aguna is a woman whose husband has abandoned her, or can't be found, and we don't know if he's alive or dead, and she doesn't have a get, so she's now a non-married widow. Okay, and the guna is okay. So Rabbi Yochanan Omer mipnei tekanas mamzerim, Sora loka Reb Nachman da Omer mipnei shnayim, because he holds like Reb Nachman that you only need 2. Now there's a general rule that when you say something in front of 3, it becomes public knowledge. There's a call. So presumably, if it's a larger Bezdin, the word will eventually reach Jerusalem, and she will minimize the number of mamzerim running around in the playground.
Yeah, but eventually may be too late.
I understand, but so that's why he made this takana that the husband can't do that, to preclude the too late. Okay? Betray less lahu koila. When you have only 2, the word's not going to spread rapidly and widely, and she'll never get the message, and she'll remarry. So you cancel the ability for a husband to do that. V'hilo shama, and the lady will never hear about it. V'lo yoda azla nasba. And she, in her ignorance, will go and remarry. The Ika mamzerim, and the kids will be mamzerim.
Is he saying that it's okay in front of the bedroom of 3 then?
No, that was a machlokes to give us now rationales. According to Rabban Gamliel, you asked this before, I answered it before. If the husband wants to use the method of canceling the divorce by appearing before a bezdin either the shliach who is charged with bringing the get to Yerushalayim has to be there. So now he won't keep going because he knows it's canceled. Why should he buy a boat ticket to go to Jerusalem? Or the woman herself has to be there.
That precludes any.
So that precludes any sneaky on his part. Okay, that's Rabban Gamliel's takana. All right, now, Reish Lakish Omer Mipnei Takanas Agunos. Reish Lakish says what we're worried about is multiplying agunos. Sover Loka Rav Sheshes to Omer Mipnei Gimel. He holds you need at least 3, so the word will get out and she will know about it before the chuppah. Okay? And ubeit losa islahu kola, the word will get out. The shama, and the woman will hear about it. The yada shalom minaspa, and she'll then know she's stuck. She may not remarry. Okay, the takanas agunos lo huika, and therefore saying the husband cannot cancel the get out of town. That means if the get gets to Jerusalem, it's valid, and she can remarry. So that's one less aguna. Yes. No, don't wave your arm because I think you have a question. Okay. Now, the next question is, remember, it had this weird language. He shouldn't do it, translated into English. Tana Rabbanan, bitlu. If the husband does use a bezdin to nullify the get, even though he was told he's not supposed to, okay, mevutel. Divrei Rebbe, that's what Rebbe Yehuda Nasi says. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, who's the son of Rabban Gamliel, Aimer Eina Yacholo Levatlo. He cannot nullify the get unless his wife or the agent is there. V'lo hosif al hatanai. And he can't change conditions. Remember, we learned you can make conditions in a get. We're not divorced for 30 days. You retroactively will be divorced if I don't get home in time. There are various, this get will be valid if you abstain from wine for a week, or a month, a year. Can't be permanently, because then he's still got a hold on her, but he can put in conditions. He not only can't cancel the get, he can't go to this bezdin and try to make new changes in the conditions of the get. Ma koyach bezdin yofa. B'shem kain, if he can cancel the get, or if he can make changes. Now remember, Rabban Gamliel was a Sanhedrin. There were 71 Gedalim, and they made this takana. So if we can ignore the takana, what's the kayach of bezdin? Anybody can do whatever he wants, right? Okay, ma kayach bezdin yafa. What's good is the value of the power of a bezdin. So, mi ika mi de tiraisa batul gita. So here's the deal. The get is basically the Eraisa. Now we're going to modify that. But the Torah text talks about if you want to get rid of your wife, write a document of separation and give it to her. The procedure of a get is a Torah pasuk. So how can a bezdin, and therefore, presumptively, the various conditions surrounding the get, like can the husband cancel, can the husband not cancel, are also derived from the diraisa. So what right does even a Sanhedrin have to go and change a Torah rule? That's the assumption here. Mi ika mide diraisa batal gita. Can you really void a get from a biblical perspective? Umushumma koyach bezdin yafa. And because of the rabbinic issue of their concerns about either mamzerim or agunos, he says, what's the clout of a bezdin? Shireen and Isha Ish Alma. So you're going to tell me that we're going to cancel the husband's right to cancel the get, and we're going to let this lady remarry, and that's all rabbinic? When we're based on a diraisa. Diraisa means in the Torah. And if it's in the Torah, that's much stronger than if it's a rule the rabbis apply. Okay, so yes, in this circumstance, we can make a rabbinic enactment that, quote, not really, but you'll see, but quote, cancels a diraisa. Okay? Because the Kol Mekadesh, Adaite, the Rabbanan Mekadesh, all marriages are actually structured by rabbinic enactment. Okay? And we'll see what we mean. Va'af kinahud rabbanan de kedushin mineh. And in our case, where the husband broke the rule, this is Rabban Gamliel's son's understanding, wherever the rabbis position on how you do a marriage or to end the marriage are violated, the rabbis say, look, we made the rules of how you get married. We are declaring your marriage, what's the word? It's not annulled. So you never were married in the first place. So if you think back, the nights you spent with your wife were a lot more fun because it was forbidden fruit. Okay, so now Amar le Ravina le Ravashi. Ravina says, Teinach de Kaddish Bixafo. That works. Remember, there are three ways to get married. You can get married by bia. You can get married with a document, a contract. That's what ksuba basically is. And you can get married by buying her from herself. You give her money, or in our world, we give her a ring that Adim look at and evaluate is worth enough money to commit this marriage, to implement this marriage. Okay, so that is rabbinic. Money is rabbinic, but bia is still deraisa. So if you invite a woman to join you in a motel and you say, we had this before, and you say, this is on the grounds that we're going to be married. We had that in the case of if the father agrees or not a couple of days ago. All right. So in any event, Kadesh Bia Lamemar, but Bia, which is the basic real reason for marriage, how can you challenge that the marriage is null? They've been sleeping together although these many months or years. So Shav Yerabanan Lebe'ilaso Bilasnus. The rabbis decided that if you don't listen to Bezdin and you don't follow the takana of not canceling the get sneakily, the rabbis decided all the biyas that you've had are znus, not als marriage. Okay? Now, so therefore, Rebbe says it's okay, but Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, Rabban Gamliel's son, says you can't. This is all b'diavad, because obviously lechatchila you have to listen to. You're not supposed to do it, but if you did do it, Rebbe says it's okay. And Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says still no good because the takana is a takana. Okay, Tana Rabbanan. Another issue about breaking up, about nullifying a get. Amar Asara. If I gather 10 people and I say to the group of 10, I'm authorizing you guys to go and get a sofer to write a get, or if one of you knows how to do it, to actually write the get yourself. And you pick the two amongst you and let them be the witnesses, and then get this get to my wife. That's what I did. Okay. Kasvel get ishti, write a get for my wife. Yachal avatel zeh shelo bifnei zeh. According to this brisa, the Tanakama in this brisa, I can change my mind, sort of. And I could say to 2 or 3 or 5 of the group of 10, you know what? I don't want you guys to have this shlichus. And I do not have to reassemble the group. I could go individually to Bob and say, you're out. And then to Shraga, you're out. As long as there are 2 left to be able to sign the get. That's his position. I'm sorry, that's Rebbe's position. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, the same people who argued about canceling a get, he says, I can't kick a few out of this group of 10 unless all 10 are present. Okay? Now, who cares? Right? I mean, the bottom line, what's the big deal as long as you still have 2? So, b'mai k'miflegi, what are we talking about? We're talking about the following. Be'edis shebatla miksasa batla kula k'miflegi. We have an understand. If 2 witnesses, 4 people witness a crime. 2 of them are to the north of the Maisa, and 2 of them are to the south of the Maisa. Now, for some reason, like one of them is a cousin, one of them is a gambler, one of them is Machal Shabbos. One of these 2 witnesses is no good. We nullify their entire testimony. There is no, and the guy goes free. That's one perspective. Rebbe Sover, Edis Shabbat Lemiktsasa, when we cancel part 1 of the 2 witnesses, Lo Batla Kula, we do not throw the whole thing out. So we could take one of the guys on the south who saw the same crime and combine him with the guy on the north and have a new kat. So that's a machlokas. And if you think about it, that's not dissimilar to this case. But lakula, meaning the whole 10 have to be involved, or but lemiksason, I can independently get rid of a couple, okay? So, the I azle hanach kasve v'have, if I say to the 7 left, go write the get. I didn't cancel. You guys go write the get and give it to my wife. So let the remaining messengers, shlichim, write the get and deliver the get. Okay, if you could do this dividing business. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel over, he says, Eidas Shabbat Lemiktsasa Batla Kula. If you cancel 1 witness, you have to start over, maybe get 2 guys from another perspective. But otherwise, the first 2 guys, you can't even listen to one of them. Okay? And Vahanach Lo Yoda. And when you kick somebody off without everybody knowing about it, you create a new problem. Maybe the one you kicked off who does not have a shlichus will be grabbed by one of the guys that's still in and say, we need a witness, come and sign. and they don't all know the rules. So you have a get that's invalid to begin with because you invalidated one of the witnesses. Okay, that's the issue. V'hanach lo yada, the others wouldn't know. V'azle v'kasve v'hevi, and they go and they write the get, and one of the ineligible guys is either the messenger or a signature. Okay, v'sharo eshes ish la'alma, and you wind up giving permission to a married woman to remarry, and that's a big no-no. The e-boy saying, if you prefer, we could explain it this way: the kula alma edis shabatla mitzasa lo batla kula. It that whoever's left is still valid, and you don't nullify the whole thing. V'hacha haina taima Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, and Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel has a different reason. Kasavar milsa is avda ape sara. That if you say to 10 people, I want the 10 of you to be involved in creating and delivering a get, then 9 of them isn't good enough. You have to have all 10. Okay, it's not a minion. It could be 5. It could be 19. It's not a minion. The 10 is just agabursa. But if I charge a group to undertake, if you're on the committee to write my get, you have to have the whole committee. A quorum equals whole committee to do the get. And if one guy isn't there, the get's begin from the get-go is no good.
Get-go.
The get-go. I'm glad you got that. Okay. So that was Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Okay, Iboilahu. So they asked the question. Kulchem mahu. What if the guy says, all of you have to be involved in writing the get? Would Reb Shimon still say he couldn't revoke without everybody being there? Time at the Reb Shimon ben Gamliel mishum kasaver edus shabatla mitzasa batla kula. He says canceling one witness means that the whole cot of witnesses is gone. Okay, v'hani kaven the amar lahu kulchem. But since he said, I'm charging the group, not I'm charging 10 people. I'm charging the group. Okay, they can't act unless everyone is present. Al Dilma, time at the Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, Mishum Kasaver, Kol Misa is Avda Be'ape, Ki Asara Tzricha Be Asara Lemish Lafa. That he holds that once we set it up with 10, you require all 10. So the wording didn't matter. If he says, oh, I want you 10, or I want all of you, maybe Reb Shimon holds that you need the entire group or it's not a get. Okay, now that's a question. Now who's right? And how many do you need? And can you do it with a bunch of questions here? So, Toshma, let's try and resolve. Amr l'shnayim, I say to 2 guys, to nu get l'ishti, give my wife a get. Now, we're presuming here that give my wife a get, it doesn't yet exist. That's the presumption. And when I say give my wife a get, it means acquire, sign, and deliver. Okay? I can tell. I asked Bob and Shraga Feivel to do it. And then Bob says, I have a bar mitzvah in Cleveland. So I say, okay, we'll replace you. Or we'll just let Shraga do it on his own. He'll drag in another witness. Okay? Divrei Rebbe. That's Rebbe's perspective. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Eimer Eina Yachol Levata El Zeh B'fnei Zeh I can't cancel Bob unless Shrag is there at the same time. Hashnayim dechi kulchem damu. So now we see that it's not necessarily 10. If it's just the two, the same rule, you both have to be there if I modify the shlichus. If it's 10, you all have to be there if I modify the shlichus. Oh, plige. And yet they argue. Rebbe says yes, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says no. So now we see that Reb Shimon ben Gamliel is a blanket. You can't ever modify a shlichus for more than one individual, whatever it is, unless everybody's present. And Rebbe says no, you can change it with only the affected individual or individuals present. Okay, Amar Rav Ashi says if what we're talking is the charge was, as I said at the beginning, write the get, sign the get, deliver the get. Hachinami, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel would say the same thing there. But what if that's not the case? The Eidei Holacha. What if I already had the get written? What if the get's already signed by witnesses? And I say to a group, get this get to my wife. That's another one, Bob. Mm-hmm. Get this get. Okay? We're talking only about delivery. Do they still stick to their guns? Hachinami mistabra. There is a logic. We can figure it out logically. The Katani Sefer, because the end of that other brisa that we just quoted, Amr lezeb bifnei atzmo, v'zeb bifnei atzmo. If I say to Bob, I have a get, I want you to get it to Jerusalem. And then I say to Shragi, I've got this get, I want it to get to Jerusalem. I authorize you. Now, I also authorized him, but you weren't both present when I authorized. Okay? Then it's logical to say, if Shragi says I can't do it, I say, okay, fine, you're out. Bob, here's money for a plane ticket. Get my get to Jerusalem. Okay, now, the Eidei Haleches Shapir, if you say that works, if all this agent is supposed to do is get an existing get to Jerusalem, but if you're talking about creating the get and signing the get, can they go together if they're individually commissioned? Ha'amar Mar, the rabbi says, Ein edusan mitzdarf refes. You can't combine two witnesses unless ad sheyiro shneihim kiechad. Unless they're together with the same perspective, they're both on the north, and they both witness the same act, then you could take, there's a crowd of 6, you could take 2. But if one is in the north and one is the south, you can't use them together as a kat of Eidim. So therefore, based at the end, the Brisa says, I can appoint the shlichim individually. Obviously, it's not to create the get, it's only to deliver the get. That's the maskana there. Now, but maybe not. Dilma, Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha, Svirele, maybe the author of the Sefer of that Brisa holds like Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha, who says you can combine. The guy on the north could be one witness, he's a kosher witness, and the guy on the south who saw the same event could be a kosher witness, and you could make a kat to a cluster of Eidim from that, even though their perspective differed. So now, if that's the case, then maybe Bob and Shraga would be the Adim on the get, even though I approached them individually. Is that, everybody get that? Because I went through this twice before I got that. Okay, then I got a get. Okay. Amar Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda. Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda says, Shomeis Mine the Rebbe Avatarti. I learned two important halachas from Rabbi Abba about this get business. Chada Karebi, the Chada Kareb Shimon ben Gamliel. So there's one of the times he said we paskin like Rebbe. And one of the other rule he told me is, in one of the cases, we paskin like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. The only problem is, Yodana, Haika Rebbe, the Haika Reb Shimon Gamliel. But I don't know who said what. And I don't know which, I know we paskin once like Rebbe Shimon Gamliel, and we paskin once like Rebbe in these two issues. Can you go to a bezdin out of town and cancel the get secretly? Or can you break up the cot if not everybody's there? But I don't know which one we rule like in each case. I know I know it's a split decision, but I don't know who said what. Okay? So Omer of Yosef, Nahave Anan. Let's try and figure it out. When Reb Dimi came to Bavel from Eretz Yisrael, he told us, Maisa v'asa Rebbe kedivrei chachamim. There once was a case where Rebbe didn't hold his own opinion. He paskined like the chachamim. And that case was a case of ono. There's a halacha that if you buy something from someone else and he pumps up the price or he gives a discount on the price, and you don't know that, okay? One store charges $1.99 and the other store charges $2.25 for the same can of beans, okay? If the deviation is more than 1/6 of the quote standard price, then the transaction is null. It did not happen, and you got to give the can of beans back, and he gives you your money back. If it's less than that, then the transaction stands, and you either got a break or got screwed. Okay, so there was a case where we're talking about a bezdin was handling a land transaction, and the bezdin appointed an appraiser, but the appraiser was off by a significant amount. Okay, so we have a double whammy here. Is it a no because it's off by a significant amount, but the bezdin appointed the guy, and what about Kayach bezdin? So we have two conflicting principles. Okay, so Amar lefanav Rebbe Parta beno shel Rebbe Elazar ben Parta ben beno shel Reb Parta Hagadol. So this guy is the great grandson. This Parta of his great grandfather was the great Rebbe Parta, and he said to Rebbe, Im Kain, if you canceled the transaction because the price was too high or too low, Ma Kayach Bezdin Yafa, what are you doing to the validity of a Bezdin ruling? You're challenging the very essence of things. And so Reb Shimon ben Gamliel would say that you can't do that, that the ruling of a bezdin is final, right? He can't change the get. He listens to his father. So here, Rebbe, okay, so that's the case. So you have to hold from the bezdin. That's why Reb Shimon nullifies the get. And Rebbe here paskined like the Rabbana. So he agreed. He did it the way Reb Shimon ben Gamliel would have done it. Midahaka Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. And since this ruling, even Rebbe said we follow Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, ha Karebi. So now we've eliminated one of the two. So whether or not you can throw out shluchim without the presence of all the others would have to go like Rebbe, and he said you can. Okay, so they use logic and the precedent to decide who is who, what was what. Okay, Af Rabbi Yeshua min Usha, and there was another rabbi named Yeshua from Usha. Savar Chadek Rebbe, v'Chadek Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. He also agreed that one ruling goes like Rebbe and one ruling goes like Reb Shimon. The Omer Rabba Bar Chana, because Rabba Bar Chana mentioned the following Maisa. Chamisha Save Havinan Kaime de Reb Yoshua min Usha. 5 scholars were sitting in front of, meaning that they acknowledged Rav Ushia from Rav Yehoshia from Ushia was the head guy. Asa Dahu Gavrakaime, and another fellow showed up, the Ashkele Gita al Korche, and Rav Yeshua, using these other people to make a bezdin, forced this man to write a get for his wife. Now, for another time, there is a list of grounds where a woman can demand a get and bezdin will force the man to give it. Okay, like he's a tanner and he stinks. There are a list of grounds, okay? So, Amalon, so Rabbi Yeshua said to the others, now they are going to be doing the writing and delivering. He says, Zil atamoiru v'kasvula. Go hide and secretly get this get written and delivered. So what's all that?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Why does he have to hide?
If you hold like Rebbe that he can go to another bezdin and cancel the get, so he'll go to the other bezdin and cancel the get. What does their hiding do to help? Okay, me mitamre my have. What does hiding gain for anybody? He can still go find 3 friends and make a bezdin and cancel the get. Okay, Ella Shema Menaka Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Svirale. So we have to learn that Rav Yoshia from Usha agrees with Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel that he can't cancel it. So why did they have to hide? Okay, what was the gain of their hiding? So if you want to say that you want to change what we just learned, then you want to say Reb Shimon ben Gamliel wins the debate in both cases with the multitude of messengers and with the inability to violate his father's takana. If that's what we want to say now, lama hu itmure. Again, what does their hiding add to the case that we can make that determination? Livadre idabadure. If we say we can't undo a charge unless everybody's involved, they don't have to hide. One of them has to go off somewhere else. Now he's missing. So now you can't undo, and the get would have to get written. So we learn from this one that we hold like Rebbe in one case, which is the case of writing the get, of canceling the get, and we hold like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel on the breaking up the cut. V'Rava Omer Reb Nachman, but Rava follows Reb Nachman, who throws a monkey wrench. Halacha kerebi b'shteihen. In both of these complex issues, we paskin like Rebbe. Okay, so that changes everything. So the last lay Reb Nachman ma koyach bezdin yafa. So then, what is Reb Nachman? Because remember, Rebbe says you can violate Reb Shimon, Rabban Gamliel's takana, and you could cancel the get anyway, right? So what happened to the immutable power of a bezdin? In Judaism, there is not even like an appeal. A ruling is a ruling. So what happened? And that's what we base all our halachas on. So what happened to that rule that the bezdin rules, and that's the end of that. V'ha'amar Reb Nachman Amar Shmuel. So Reb Nachman replies in the name of Shmuel. Here is the case, a new case. Children, Nebuch, are heirs to a dead father. None of the children is bar or bas. With bas doesn't count because girls don't inherit. None of the children have reached bar mitzvah yet. So here's what happens: Yisomim shabo lecholo b'nichsei avihen. If children come to the bezdin to divvy up appropriately the estate of their dead father, bezdin ma'amidin lehen apotropos. The court appoints an advocate ad litem, a guardian in law for each of the minor children. Okay, ubarim lahu chelek yafa. And the guardians make a best effort at equitably divvying up the estate. Okay? V'higidlu. But as soon as the kids are all adults, yoichlin lemachos, they are allowed to approach the bezdin and say, you know what? We don't like what the Apitrodnasin did. We want to reallocate the estate because I wound up with a field there and a field there. It would be easy for me to farm them if they were next to each other. Each has a time. And they have, so the ruling here is that we do not follow the rule of the bezdin, that we let the children reopen the case when they're adults and re-divvy up the estate. However, Reb Nachman, who seems to say we paskin like Rebbe, and we don't worry about Reb Gamliel's bezdin in the koyach there, in this case, Reb Nachman takes the opposing position. Reb Nachman didei omer, Reb Nachman himself says, Higdilu ein yochlin lemachos. The end, once the kids grow up, what the Apitrodnasin did is done, and you can't change it. The imkain, because if you could change it, makayech bezdin yafa. What happens to the authority of the bezdin? So tune in tomorrow, and we will see how we resolve this issue. Everybody have a great day. Tomorrow and Tuesday are Rosh Chodesh. So be prepared to stay later.
Oh.
All right. I mean, I don't want to fall behind again. Okay. What?
Put yourself on 1.5.
I can't read fast and I can't talk fast. I'm not Rabbi Goldberg.
Wait, we can make a recording and then.
Speed it
play
up.
it on
Yeah, you
one-
could do that. Okay, don't forget your phone.
Okay. You're not a 1.5.
I don't know what that means.
Bob, you're gonna set up.
My wife thinks I'm a 10.
Oh. Am I gonna set up what?
You're gonna set that up to record?
Yes, of course.
so you can record the lecture.
That's right.